Hi, everyone. Thank you again for joining us today for this workshop that is part of our Student Debt Summer series on student debt cancellation and federal loan information. Before we begin, we're going to start off with some important information about today's webinar. Next slide, please. This webinar is going to be recorded, so we can share information today to everyone who registered. So don't worry if you have to jump off a little bit early. Anyone who registered will be getting a follow-up email with the recording and other resources that are going to be shared. If you have questions, please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We will be answering questions live towards the end of the webinar today as well, and try to get to as many questions today as possible. And things are ever changing around student loans, so please note that the information shared today is accurate as of this moment. And also note that we are not lawyers or financial advisors. We are policy experts and borrowers helping borrowers, along with the expertise of our State Department, who is presenting with us today. And so with that, many of you are likely tuning in from the Southern California coastal region, thanks to our special guest and likely your state representatives. And to kick us off today is State Senator Monique Limón, representing Senate District 19, a proven champion for student borrowers and someone who we always enjoy working with. Senator, do we have you on the line?
Yes, thank you so much. Great to be here with all of you, and for everyone, good afternoon. As the senator, for the Ventura and Santa Barbara County areas, I've had the incredible privilege of serving as an educator and also as chair of the Senate Banking and Committee. For the last 6 years, I've worked on a number of consumer protection issues and issues impacting student loan borrowers. I was one of the principal co-authors to help pass Assembly Bill 376, which created the California Student Borrower Bill of Rights for all federal and for private loans. And this is something that is super critical for our state because it requires disclosures, and also that there's fee information about loans, and the process of paperwork in order for the responders for the borrowers to respond quickly. I'm proud of that work, but also have generally worked on really thinking about what college and university affordability is like in our state as it relates to opportunities, so some folks don't have to completely borrow. This year, the legislature invested $25 million in the middle class scholarship program, again, thinking about ways that we can alleviate some of the loan for different students across our state. And despite all of this, we are just absolutely clear that even with the state's efforts and investments over the last years, there is still a lot of student debt. Student debt is one of the pressing issues, with more than 45 million student borrowers across the United States currently owing more than $1.6 trillion in debt. That's nearly 1/3 of borrowers that have debt, but not yet a degree. And so these are important things to keep in mind. And as we hear today is really about getting additional information on how we can try to reduce that debt for folks across the state of California, but work with the federal government as a partner. So that is very critical to us. And I just want to thank you all for joining today and being part of this conversation. And a special thanks to the department for putting this on and facilitating a very much needed conversation where we hope you will get more information that will be more helpful to you as you think about your payments, for loan forgiveness, and important deadlines for the borrowers to use. So we're excited to learn more, and thank you again for the department and to my colleagues who have joined to sponsor this.
Thank you, Senator Limón, and to your office for helping outreach to borrowers today, and especially for your leadership in California. Next, we have a brief message from Assemblymember Steve Bennett, representing Assembly District 38.
Hello, I'm Assemblymember Steve Bennett. I represent Western Ventura County in the California State Legislature. I really want to thank you for attending this and trying to learn all you can about the student debt confusion that we have out there. And I particularly want to thank all the people that pulled this campaign together and this informational webinar together for the benefit of everybody. You know, other first world countries have a societal belief that having a well-educated population is really important. And that's why in those countries, the burden of paying for college education is not put on those students, but is paid for by society overall. We don't do that here in the United States. And for a long time, back when I was younger, you had public universities at least were fairly low cost in terms of expenses. But now that's also changed. And so the burden of paying for college education, unfortunately, in our society, has fallen onto you. And students are now responsible for, unfortunately, enormous debts when they get out of school. And for some people, it is really a burden. It's soul crushing for those people. So I really applaud the Biden administration for trying to help particularly low income people by relieving a certain percentage of their debt, that $20,000. And it's unfortunate that the Supreme Court ruled that effort by the Biden administration unconstitutional. So now we have to start the whole process over again, because for a long time we've had the payments frozen. And for you to understand all the specifics about starting this all back up is what this webinar is about. And so I, again, want to thank you for paying attention and coming to this, and the campaign for pulling this together. I think you're going to find this very valuable.
Thank you to Assemblymember Bennett and his office also for helping out with getting the word out today about the workshop to 8038 constituents. For our final guest, we have a brief message from Assemblymember Gregg Hart, representing Assembly District 37.
Hello, I'm Assemblymember Gregg Hart. Welcome to today's webinar on student debt. I want to thank NextGen Policy, the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, and the Campaign for California's Borrowers' Rights for putting this webinar together. I'm proud to join you today along with Senator Monique Limón. To begin, I'd like to commend all of the students and graduates on today's webinar for working hard and pursuing higher education. I recognize the commitment that it takes to pursue your degree, and I'm excited for the doors that will open as a result of your education. Access to higher education is critical for preparing the leaders of tomorrow, expanding access to the middle class, and developing the solutions to the common issues that we all face. For too many students, financial burdens often weigh heavier than their hard work and dreams. Today, California students and borrowers find themselves in a state of financial uncertainty. This unease is worsened by the challenges posed by the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. We know that it should not be this way. We're here today to provide you with important information to consider while navigating the complex process of student loans. All of the organizations represented today have been working around the clock to help borrowers since the Supreme Court blocked the Biden administration's student loan forgiveness plan. Please stay engaged with these organizations as they continue to provide timely information and advocate for the interest of borrowers. As your state assembly member, I'll continue to work to increase access to higher education. I'm proud of the work that our UC, CSU, and community college systems do to extend access to students of all backgrounds, but I know that we can do even more. I will also work to support efforts at the federal level to provide relief to borrowers. This work requires everyone's efforts. I encourage you to use your voice in advancing the movement for greater access to higher education. Thank you to all who are participating today. Please know that I'm here to support you. Have a great webinar.
Thank you to Assemblymember Hart and all of our special guests for helping to make today possible. We will get back to the presentation slide deck now. And my name is Samantha Sang. I'm the Legislative Director and Policy Advisor at NextGen Policy or California, and we're one of 5 organizations that lead the Campaign for California Borrowers' Rights Coalition. The coalition is composed of diverse organizations working to ensure student borrowers see a future free of debt. So with us today, you'll also hear from our coalition partners, Natalia Abrams, President and Founder at the Student Debt Crisis Center, and Sara Baubibsa, our West Advocacy Manager at Young Invincibles. Also making today's webinar possible, I'm happy to introduce Selena Damian, our very own and first California Student Loan Servicing Ombudsperson at our state's Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, or DFPI. Selena, passing it off to you now.
Thank you, Samantha. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It is my pleasure to be here today. I am Selena Damian, the Student Loan Servicing Ombudsperson for the state of California, and I am with DFPI, the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation. Let me start off by explaining to you some of the work that we do. We are California's Consumer Protection Agency. We regulate companies of financial products to ensure that they are in compliance, and this includes student loan servicers. We accept and we review consumer complaints from Californians. We take legal action when companies are not in compliance, and we protect consumers from fraud and abuse by conducting education and outreach such as this one. Some of our focus and my focus in the work that we're doing is around student loans, student loan updates, student loan literacy, credit building, and how to protect Californians from scams and frauds. Next, please. So how much student loan debt do we have in California? Senator Limón did mention some of these numbers, but in California, we do have 4 million borrowers who owe $141 billion in student loan debt, and the majority of that is federal debt. California has the highest number of enrolled college students at almost 3 million students, and in 2019 and 2020, 46% of California college graduates had student loan debt. The average debt load of a California borrower is $37,000, and in the United States, borrowers owe now, I believe it is over $1.8 trillion. Those numbers keep increasing on a daily basis. Next, please. And one thing that is important to recognize about student loan debt is the outsized impact that it has to students of color. Over half, or 56%, of students who attend public 2- and 4-year universities institutions in California come from families that earn under $40,000 annually. 90% of Black and 72% of Latinx students take out college loans in comparison to 66% of white borrowers. Black women have the largest student debt burdens of all, and a borrower in a 75% minority neighborhood is 5 times more likely to fall behind on their student loan payments. Default rates are higher for Black borrowers, followed by Latinx borrowers and first-generation students. Next, please. As Senator Limón spoke about earlier, that she was one of the champions of the California Student Borrower Bill of Rights, which is a protection for California borrowers that was passed and took effect in 2021. And what this California Bill of Rights does is it prohibits servicers from engaging in abusive, unfair, or deceptive practices, and it requires that servicers work in the best interest of borrowers. Now more than ever, it is very important that borrowers understand their rights and their protections when dealing with their servicers. These servicers must provide borrowers with information and applications for income-driven repayment plans, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, and other forms for federal benefits and protection. This bill establishes special protections for military borrowers, borrowers working in public service, older borrowers, and borrowers with disabilities. Therefore, when a borrower calls and asks about a specific program, whether it's PSLF, borrower defense discharge, or total permanent disability discharge, they should be provided the correct information. This bill also protects borrowers from any negative consequences stemming from a sale, assignment, transfer, system conversion, or payment made by the borrower to the original student loan servicer. This is very important right now when we're starting repayment. Your payments should be applied properly, and a borrower should have the information of their current servicer. A borrower can file a complaint through our agency at the link provided, and California is only one of 13 states that has established this advanced legislation to strengthen the oversight of servicers and to protect borrowers. Next, please. Now, before we get into the updates, I just want to just mention some terms that it is very important for borrowers to, they're very important for borrowers to understand. Federal loans versus private loans. Federal loans are loans, student loans that are made and funded directly by the Department of Education through the William D. Ford Federal Direct Loan Program. Interest rates are fixed and they're set by Congress. No credit check are required except for PLUS loans, and you're going to have your subsidized and unsubsidized loans. Private loans, they're made by a lender such as a bank, credit union, a state agency, or a school, and they do not offer the flexible repayment terms or forgiveness options provided by federal student loans. They often require a credit record or a co-signer, and they may have higher limits. Borrowers may have a mix of both federal and private loans. So it's very important for borrowers to understand what type of loans they have. And then today, you already heard me mention servicer, but you will hear us talking about servicers throughout the presentation. The difference between the lender and the servicer is that the lender is the company or the organization that's lending you the money. They originate the loan, and for federal loans, Department of Education is your lender. Now, student loan servicer. The student loan servicer is a company that tracks the loans while you are in school. They send the bill every month. They collect and process loan payments. They process the changes in repayment plans, deferment, forbearances. So basically, they are the borrower's main point of contact, and everyone that has a federal student loan should know who their student loan servicer is. Next, please. And then these are the federal loan servicers right now: Mohila, Nelnet, at Aidvantage, and Ed Financial. Some of the private lenders are Navient, Sallie Mae, SoFi, Discover. This to give you a little, just some information on those. Now I will pass it on to Natalia, I'm sorry, for our student loan debt cancellation updates.
Great. Thank you so much, Selena. So now we're going to go over federal student debt cancellation and where we stand with that. So last August, almost exactly a year ago, President Biden announced that his student debt cancellation plan using his emergency powers provided by the HEROES Act. That plan would have given debt relief available to individuals with federally held student loans that earn less than $125,000 per year or $250,000 per household. The plan provided up to $10,000 in relief to all qualifying borrowers and up to $20,000 in those who had received Pell Grants. Over 26 million people applied for the plan, and 16 million had their application approved. Unfortunately, this June, we saw, after a lengthy Supreme Court challenge, this US Supreme Court blocked the initial plan after hearing 2 cases to challenge it. The Supreme Court decision narrowly applies to the HEROES Act only and not to the Higher Education Act. Moving forward. So following the Supreme Court ruling, the president announced a new plan, what we're calling Plan B, to pursue student debt cancellation using alternative legal authority under the Higher Education Act, or HEA. The negotiated rulemaking process, or NEGREG, is already in process. Now it's begun, which allows the public to submit comments. We've gone through a public comment period where I believe almost 30,000 comments were submitted. And now we're waiting to have a committee of stakeholders set up to negotiate a final rule to be presented to the Department of Education. This process can take some time, and the final rule may look different than the president's initial plan. We hope to see this sometime next year, early next year. The administration's also pursuing targeted debt cancellation for specific groups of borrowers, including those who have been in income-driven repayment plans for over 20 years and those defrauded by predatory for-profit institutions. So, did we go? Yes, perfect, thank you. So moving on, this is, what I think a lot of folks have joined us here, and I see more than 300 folks here on a Tuesday afternoon. So you're here to learn about what to do now. We know that the pandemic-related payment and interest pause that we have been in ends at the end of this month. So at the beginning of September, We can go back a few to the next slide. One moment, folks. So there we go. So starting September 1st, student loan interest will resume, and starting October 1st, payments will resume. And we understand that since March of 2020, your payments for the majority of federal student loan borrowers have been turned off. So this is, new to many folks, and people have never made a payment before. And so what the Department of Education and the White House has announced is an on-ramp to repayment. The Department of Education will launch an on-ramp program for borrowers who cannot afford payments resuming this fall. This program will prevent you from becoming delinquent or default on your student loans if you miss payments during this 12-month program. Missed payments during the on-ramp program will not be reported to collection agencies or credit bureau. However, interest will continue to accrue should you miss your monthly payment, and future bills will be automatically adjusted to reflect the accrued interest during those months. So you could see an increase in payments if you miss a payment, but you won't go into default or delinquency or have it reported to the credit agencies, which we know is very important to you as a student loan borrower. Moving on. In addition, there's something called the Fresh Start program. This is for student loan borrowers that have been in default. This is a one-time temporary program from the Department of Education that benefits, special benefits for borrowers who have defaulted on federal loans. This will return your defaulted loans in repayment status, or as we say, good standing. It will remove the record of default from your credit report. It will allow you to access federal financial aid again. It will stop the collections and allow you eligibility for other government loans. You must contact your loan holder. If this is not automatic, the way the on-ramp was that we just discussed, and if your loans are held by the Department of Ed, you can contact them using one of the methods below that you see on your screen. And if your loans are held by a guarantee agency, which often happens if you're in default, you'll need to call that guarantee agency. And for those that I see on the phone, you can go online to go to myeddebt.ed, so ed.gov, or you can call their phone number, which is 1-800-621-3115. There's also a mailing address, which you can see on your screen, and feel free to contact us if you need more information. All right, so now we're going to talk about the new income-driven repayment program. I've seen a lot of questions about this. There are, we have the on-ramp, we have Fresh Start for those in default, and then we have another announcement that just came today. This plan is now live. Saving on a Valuable Education Plan, or SAVE, SAVE. This is a new income-driven repayment plan, or shorthand IDR, that will replace revised pay-as-you-earn or repay. The plan raises the amount of income that's considered non-discretionary income by guaranteeing that no borrower earning less than 225% of the poverty line, roughly $15 an hour if you are a single individual borrower, will have to make a monthly payment, or your monthly payment will be at zero and you'll stay in good standing. If you make $0, you pay $0. If you make $15 an hour as a single person, you'll pay $0. Borrowers who enroll in the SAVE plan will not be charged unpaid monthly interest. I saw a question about interest. This is what I meant about out of control interest. So a borrower will not be charged unpaid monthly interest, meaning if no borrower's loan balance will grow as long as you continue to make your monthly payment while enrolled in the SAVE plan. Additionally, benefits will launch next summer. So that's what starts now. And then next summer of 2024, July of 2024, for undergraduate loans, the plan will cut the amount borrowers have to pay each month from 10 to 5%. So essentially your payment will be cut in half. Borrowers who have both undergrad and grad loans, they'll do a weighted average of about 7.5%. So between 5 and 10% of your original principal balances. That's when you took out your loan, what your balance was at. That's what original balance or original principal balance means. For those with original loan balances of less than $12,000, this is really important. Remaining debt will be forgiven after 10 years. That's for undergraduate loans. If you have under $12,000, when you initially took out your loan, no matter if it's ballooned with interest, the remaining debt will be forgiven after 10 years of payments if you enroll in the SAVE plan. If borrowers have already enrolled in repay, if you're already in repay previous to the pandemic, and you sign up for repay now, it will just turn over to the SAVE plan. So SAVE is replacing repay. So if you're in repay already, that not to worry, you'll automatically be in this SAVE plan. Moving forward. All right. Even more coming out from the Federal Department of Education. There is the one-time account adjustment. This is for borrowers if you've been on an income-driven repayment plan or working towards public service loan forgiveness, your remaining loan balance is forgiven after you make the required number of payments. This is applicable to all federal loans and the older FFEL loans, or federal family education loans. There were a variety of reasons why some months weren't credited. There's been a lot of problems with people's credit counts. This one-time adjustment really is valuable for older borrowers. I think the youngest borrower we saw was like 41 years old that received this cancellation, just to put it out there. This one-time account adjustment will count time towards forgiveness any months in repayment status, regardless of the payments made, loan type, or repayment plan. 12 months of consecutive forbearance, or 36 months of total forbearance. We know so many of you were steered into forbearance when you should have been on a repayment program. Months spent in economic hardship or military deferments count in 2013 or later. Months spent in deferment, except for when you were in school deferment prior to 2013. Time in repayment on earlier loans before consolidation of those loans into a consolidated loan. All periods credited towards income-driven repayment will also be credited towards public service loan forgiveness for eligible loans, and periods where the borrower certifies with public service employment. I will say that we've just heard from the Department of Education that 800,000 people had their loans canceled, and us at Student Debt Crisis Center have heard from many student loan borrowers that they've seen their full balance wiped out. So this is a very real thing and not subject to a court challenge at this point in time today, as we have seen with the debt cancellation plan. And I think with that, I'm going to pass it off.
Thank you so much, Natalia. So as the payment pause started back in 2020, there have been many changes to student loan programs, but there have also been changes to the industry as well. So this means that your student loan servicer might have changed in the last couple of years. So it's important to know which company is your current student loan servicer. And you should definitely get in contact with them to make sure they have your most updated contact information. It's important to take the time to know your loan information. So if you've had any personal circumstance changes or student loan servicer changes, you'll want to be current in knowing your loan types, your balances, and your servicer. You also want to make sure you review your account or accounts to ensure your servicer and contact information is updated on studentaid.gov. You want to be sure to carefully review all communications from your servicer or the Department of Education. In just a minute, Selena is going to help you identify when you might be getting information from scammers. So it's really important to keep a really vigilant eye in regards to that. For your federal loans, there are repayment options for you, and you can explore them through a loan simulator, and the Department of Education has currently one up on their website. If you're in default, you have the Fresh Start program to help you get back on good standing by contacting your loan holder. And we really hope that the information we're providing today will help, especially new borrowers, those who have graduated during the payment pause, and anyone in default prior to the pause, as we know things could have been even more complicated throughout this time. And Selena, passing it back to you.
Thank you. Thank you. So as Sarah mentioned, with everything going on with student loans, everything we're hearing in the news, there is a lot of confusion, and we understand that scammers are taking advantage of this. So I get emails from borrowers now almost on a daily basis asking if the emails that they're getting, the phone calls that they're getting, if they are legit. And many of them are not. So it is very important for student loan borrowers. Sometimes they're reaching out to people who don't even have loans, but that they are aware. They are contacting borrowers by phone multiple times a day, 800 numbers. They are being very aggressive. They are sending emails, urgent emails, saying that a borrower or a person has to take action. And they are also sending information through the mail with logos that look very official. So many times these companies will sound like they are affiliated with a government agency, and they'll have a student loan assistance or some sort of name that sounds like it is a legitimate company. What borrowers need to understand is that there is nothing that a company can do for you that you can't do on your own for free. There are companies, there are agencies, there are organizations such as the ones here today that can provide you resources, that can guide you. FSA has a great website, or the Department of Education, where you can download all the forms, extensive FAQs. Understand that your loan servicers, those Mojilas, those Advantage, they're not going to be calling you multiple times a day. The federal government is not calling you multiple times a day either. When someone reaches out to you, you verify the information. You can go on Google, enter the 800 number, enter the name of the company, and you can see if there are complaints against those companies. Do not give these companies any of your login information, passwords. They may already have some of your information as well. They may know how much student loan debt you have, but it is very important that you verify the information. We want everyone to be protected. Do not subscribe to any monthly service. Do not pay anything. So we are here to provide assistance. If you receive an email and you're not sure, reach out to one of us. We can verify if it is a legit company. But as I said, Department of Education and your servicer, a lot of that information will come in email and mail form, but you can log on to your portal. You're going to have a servicer portal, and you're going to have a studentaid.gov portal, which is going to be the main, your main hub for all your information. So those are the two portals that you need to be familiarized with. So if anyone else contacts you outside of that, just log on and see what correspondence has been sent. You can file a complaint with the DFPI if you have been a victim of fraud. And again, just be very careful. These scammers are really ramping up their efforts and taking advantage of the borrowers' confusion, which we understand. This is a lot of information, but we are here to help answer your questions. And now back to Sam.
Thank you, Selena, for providing us with the important tips to spot scammers. There's also a lesser known type of student debt that's known as institutional debt that we'd like to spread a little more awareness on. So unlike student loan debt, institutional debt is debt owed by students directly to their higher education institutions. And that results in unpaid tuition, fees, or other financial obligations. Right now, colleges and universities are using harmful debt collection methods to collect on this institutional debt. And it can look like withholding a diploma in order to collect on this debt, or banning students from re-enrolling to continue their degree program until they pay off their institutional debt. We understand that this is not, institutional debt is not very well known. So we're really at the stage where we're just trying to spread awareness. And if this sounds something that's familiar to you and you want to learn more, or you want to share your story, please check out the coalition's website at californiaborrowers.org. And Sam, passing it back to you.
All right, thank you, everyone. That was a lot of important information. And like we said, we did want to try to get to answer as many questions as we can. So we are going to our questions and answers portion of today's webinar. So thank you all for already dropping a lot of great questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We'll try to, again, answer as many questions as we can. And while we're doing that, we're gonna go to the next slide and make sure you have this kind of important links page up so you can take a look at them now. Again, you will get this in your inbox, in your email after today's webinar for your, more time to peruse through. All right, so let's see. I know there's a lot of questions around the SAVE program. We might just try to mix it in here together, but the first one, saw a lot of questions about generally, how do you apply for an income-driven repayment plan like the new SAVE plan?
Sure, Sam, I'm happy to take that. So for all of these plans, you can go to studentaid.gov. We highly suggest typing that in to your browser. Like Selena said, there are a lot of scams out there. So to ensure you get to the right place, type in www.studentaid.gov and you can enroll in the repayment plans. There's also helpful quick links to take you right to there, or you can contact your loan servicer and go that route as well.
Thanks, Natalia. And then a follow-up around the SAVES plan monthly payments. Is the income threshold before or after taxes?
I believe it's on gross income, but I'm sorry, I'm a little rusty.
The AG, yeah, adjusted gross.
Adjusted gross, thank you, perfect.
And then also around working and trying to get into the SAVE plan. So do you have to be currently working in order to qualify for the SAVE plan? Especially I think for maybe recent graduated students who haven't worked full time since they graduate this year, right? July 2023. How does this impact? How can they access SAVE?
So the SAVE plan does not have an employment requirement. It's an income-based plan. So your payment will be based on your income, which you will submit or you will certify when you apply for the program. So it doesn't matter whether you're working full-time, part-time, or working at all. They will, as long as you certify your income information, they will base your payment amount on that and your account balance, on your income. Sorry, just your income.
And then following up on that, I know that several folks have mentioned, they are married, have spouses. So does a spouse's income need to be reported to apply for the SAVE program, or is it just the borrower's income?
For a SAVE program, it's just the borrower's income. If they're filing separately, tax-wise. So, and I would recommend, because everyone has a different situation and it's very hard to get into the intricacies of the requirements, but the link that you're seeing on the screen right now, it has sample calculations, how they come up with the AGI, how it would affect someone with a certain income. So I would recommend that they've just updated this information probably as of this morning. So you will see how they are calculating the payments under this plan. And like I said, everyone's is going to be very different. So it's hard for us to just to give a clean answer, I guess. But yeah, this is a link that everyone will need to go on to get the information and to get the link to apply as well.
Perfect. And we also have a number of questions around public service loan forgiveness, or the PSLF program. So Andres asked, I think he's asking, they are asking if the payment pause counted towards PSLF, and for clarity around when or how does someone get PSLF, quote unquote, like does the 10 years of payments start when they submit their first payment, or just generally how does one get the forgiveness through the PSLF program?
Yeah, so public service loan forgiveness started in 2007. So all that's just important to note because the work needs to be done post 2007. But you need to work for 10 years while making on-time monthly payments or 120 payments and be in a public service job. So that's any state work, any federal work, working for nonprofit, C3 nonprofits. There's a whole host of jobs that count under this. Yes, the time during the pandemic counts, which is great. So essentially you got almost 3 years, as long as you were still working in that public service job, but weren't required to make payments, that will still count. I saw some of the questions, the SAVE program and the income driven repayment programs, not only do they count, they make more sense for public service loan forgiveness. By enrolling in an income driven repayment program and the public service program, you can pay as little as possible and then shorten your time frame to 10 years versus 20 or 25 and have the remainder forgiven. You can also find this information. I say there's not a link for that, but at studentaid.gov for public service loan forgiveness. And it's after 120 on-time payments that you will receive your public service loan forgiveness. And I know this was pre-pandemic, but you needed to stay working in your public service job until you receive that check.
Thank you, Natalia, for going over that. And definitely there is the PSLF requirements link here up on the screen right now. Probably could find all the details there, especially I know there's a lot of questions about what specifically counts as that public service, employment type. And so definitely check out that link. And there's a more complete listing there. But thank you, Natalia, for the top lines. But it just a refresher too on that line of thought. If Dr. Williams asked if their lender changed, will the payments towards PSLF transfer to the new lender? So what happened if you were on track for PSLF? And we know there was a lot of exiting from the student servicer side, kind of what happens for those accounts.
I can take that. So yeah, so there is only one PSLF servicer, that's Mohila. Every time, whenever a borrower first applies for PSLF, their accounts are transferred to Mohila. After that, they should be the ones that are tracking all the PSLF counts, and a borrower should contact them for any discrepancies, and will be certifying with them as well. So if someone was already enrolled prior to the pandemic in PSLF, they will remain with them. And then if they applied during the pandemic, they would have been transferred to Mohila, but that servicer should not have changed. So if you're currently enrolled in PSLF, you're with Mohila. And you can log on to their onto their website, and you can log on to their portal. Your portal should have the PSLF tracker, but everyone who's on the PSLF track should have them as their servicer. And can I jump in? I did see I'm trying to answer questions at the same time, but there were questions about servicers. Everyone should, like I said, the main hub their main portal is going to be studentaid.gov. There you can go on to this right here. Here's the link. You will find your loan balance information, loan type information. You will find your servicer information. So for those of you that are curious to want to know if there was a change of servicer, or they just need to confirm, you will need to have a studentaid.gov account to get that information, and then that way you'll know exactly, you can confirm who that servicer is. So like I said, you will have two accounts, one for studentaid.gov, Department of Education, and then for your servicer.
Great, thank you, Selena. We also had a couple of questions, several questions around Parent Plus loans. So let's try to touch on some of those. So kind of, I think generally questions, if anyone can give just top lines, because I know we can't go through all the programs here, but generally it's questions around, do Parent Plus loans benefit from kind of, overlap with any of the programs mentioned today? So like, can they benefit from an IDR plan, or sorry, income driven repayment plan, or public service loan forgiveness? Or is there a way to, have overlap or see the benefit through the Fresh Start program if you have a Parent Plus? So again, I know we can't go through all the overlapping programs, and maybe one or two top lines around Parent Plus loans and the other programs.
Yeah, do you want to take it, or you want me to take it?
I'm happy to start, and then please fill in. Unfortunately, Parent Plus loans don't cross over as much as we hope and had fought for them to. There is a repayment program for Parent Plus loans, which is called ICR, or income contingent repayment. This is not as generous as the SAVE program. However, it can help you from avoiding default or delinquency. Also, the on-ramp program, which we discussed, can be Parent Plus loans can take advantage or use that on-ramp program, which means you won't go into delinquency or default for the next 12 months. But, we have heard from so many of you, it's very unfortunate that there's not more crossover here.
Lena, did you want to add anything, or?
I did want to add that Parent Plus loans do qualify, though, if you are a borrower with Parent Plus, that you do qualify for PSLF. You just have to take certain actions. So as Natalia said, they don't offer a lot of the same benefits, but you do, Parent Plus borrowers, if they can take certain actions, consolidate, get on IDR plans may qualify for could qualify for PSLF, the public service loan forgiveness, and the IDR adjustment. So again, these links are going to be super important because they do provide information for Parent Plus borrowers and instructions on what actions they need to take to qualify, and if it's the best for them, if it's the best option for them.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Again, we're trying to answer questions and get as much information out there, but always, everybody is in a unique situation. So please check out all these resources. Also want to go back and kind of address, maybe if you are, again, just graduated, or if you're a current college student tuning in, we did have a question in the Q&A box about, can you start paying your loans before you've graduated if you're currently in college, or does that trigger or kind of start your monthly payments prematurely?
I could take the first part. I'm not sure about triggering anything, but you can pay your student loans. However, you are in school deferment, so you don't have to. I saw a question earlier about subsidized versus unsubsidized. If your loans are subsidized, that means the government is paying the interest. If they're subsidized, if they're unsubsidized, it's not. So for folks that have subsidized loans and you're in a deferment, I wouldn't see the need to make payments, but to my knowledge, there's no penalty for making early payments.
Yeah, and then if you were to, there is a way where you can get out of the in-school deferment. You can request to get into repayment. So yes, once you've requested to be put out of in-school deferment, then you will have to start paying, unless of course you went back to school or requested or were put on a different forbearance or deferment. But if you request to get out of in-school deferment, you will have to start repaying.
Excellent. There are a couple questions around the debt cancellation plan, that original, Biden's proposal for up to 20,000 in student debt cancellation if you were a Pell Grant recipient. Does the Supreme Court's decision, I think, Natalia, that you touched on, to block the debt cancellation impact any of these other kind of important updates or changes in programs that we've been hearing about?
No. So the Supreme Court decision that was passed down in June or July or late June does not impact the programs that we've talked about today. And we are tracking any potential challenges to programs, but as of today, there is nothing that's challenging the SAVE program and public service loan forgiveness has never been a part of this program or been a part of the challenge either. So the information, as Sam said at the top of the hour, that's being presented is all current and not being challenged.
Thanks, Natalia. And then also kind of conversely, we had a question about, if you do enroll in these programs, would that disqualify you from student debt relief? Which I think I'll just start by quickly saying, that process is still working its way through negotiated rulemaking, a very kind of administrative process at the federal government level. So some of that is to be determined, but we will see. I know Natalia looks like you wanted to jump in.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And even let's say best case scenario, we get a phenomenal rule similar to the president's plan through the HEA process. It will not impact you at all if you're part of public service loan forgiveness or the SAVE program or the on-ramp. That's why we're encouraging everyone, especially folks with low income, to enroll in the SAVE program, get the lowest payment possible. It's our ethic at Student Debt Crisis Center to make, get the lowest payment possible while we fight to change the laws and get debt cancellation.
Yeah, and for us, I think working with borrowers also on a daily basis, I understand there's a lot of confusion and even in the chat, a lot of questions about the application for the debt relief. So these are the PSLF, and I think it's important to understand PSLF and the income-driven repayment forgiveness. Those are two separate options, separate programs than the debt relief that we've been talking about, the one that was blocked in the Supreme Court. So they all have different processes, different requirements. So as of right now, these are the benefits, the plans that are available for borrowers and that we think that everyone should know about, really, to understand their options. And when things change or there's another plan that comes forward or goes through the rulemaking process, then there will be guidance provided then we can share that information. But at this point, these are the best plans for borrowers with federal loans. And so and just remember, income-driven repayment, IDR, it's the repayment plan that it's a requirement for both PSLF and IDR forgiveness. So there is some confusion there, but yeah, read the information, attend multiple webinars if you have to, because we understand that this can be really tricky and confusing. But are there any more, Sam?
Yeah, we have a couple more I think we have time to get to. There is a question around private loans. And so I know kind of at the top we touched upon this, but maybe it's a good thing to go over again. Does any of this that we went over today apply to private loans?
These forgiveness programs, the IDR, do not apply to private loans. So these are fully commercially owned private loans. Now, I do get some questions from borrowers that ask, they say they have private loans, but they're sort of we call these commercially held, these FEL loans. So they're half and half, like the lender is a private lender, but they're backed by the Department of Education. So those FEL loans, a lot of borrowers call them private loans. They may be eligible for some of these programs. So my recommendation is go to studentaid.gov. If you find your loan there, you have your full-on direct loan, fully owned Department of Education, and you will see those FEL loans. These are going to be these older pre-2010 loans. So this is going to be very important for those borrowers that have to be part of this income-driven repayment adjustment. So fully private loans where you have Sallie Mae, bank loans, those loans unfortunately do not get any of these benefits. But if you have the FEL loans, commercially owned FEL loans that are still backed by Department of Education, you could be eligible. So it's very important to check studentaid.gov.
Yes, thank you. And again, you will get the recording here and you can see the kind of handy dandy slide we put together for you, so you can kind of tell by brands too, whether you have a private loan, federal loan. Again, everything federal loan should be on your studentaid.gov account. That's going to be really key. And honestly, calling your servicer, which I know is easier said than done, and making sure you get that appropriate information from them. We're coming down to the last few minutes, so maybe we also want to put up another slide to have, while we're wrapping up here, some other important links for additional resources. I know folks are asking to get some more, their questions answered, but here's some other resources that can maybe help answer your questions along the way here too. So with that, this is another SAVE program question and kind of around the general income driven repayment programs. Is there any penalty with switching in and out of various IDR programs? And again, is the SAVE program the only IDR program that will be available moving forward?
There is no penalty, and it's just the newest plan, and it's been the way that the calculations and it's calculating the income and payments, it has been called, or it is going to be the most affordable. However, I would recommend on the previous page, I don't know if we had the FSA, Department of Education has a simulator, which is where a borrower can enter their information and they can get an estimate basically of the payment plan, the payment amount they would get on different payment plans. So there are 4 income-driven repayment plans and there are 3 standard payment plans. So again, very confusing. SAVE is the new one. Use the student aid simulator to calculate, to estimate what your payment would be under each plan. So all you need is your account and then some basic information, and you could see what your payment amount will be, how long it will take you to pay off the loan, and then you can make a decision from there as far as what the best plan is for you.
All right. Anything else to add from our other speakers since we're going to wrap up? All right. Thanks for covering that, Selena. And thank you all for attending today's webinar. That's all the time we have today. We will be emailing today's recording as well as a slide deck, so you have all those resources and links easily in your inboxes. Thank you to all of our presenters, Selena, Natalia, and Sara, and our technical assistants today behind the scenes, Kimberly and Andrea. Thank you again to Senator Limón and Assembly members Bennett and Hart and their offices for their partnership in making today possible. Thanks, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.